So, hot takes. They exist in all frames of medium throughout all of time. And although they're usually supposed to be played up for laughs or anything like that, I want to go a little deeper into it. I want to analyze these comments. I want to see what we can do in order to actually make the platform fighter space not only better, but more interesting. So, I went to the community post and gave every single one of the commenters a floor. What is their hot take for platform fighters? And without any further ado, let's just get into it. This one comes from my boy Waffleman. I think we should be less sensitive about characters being annoying to fight. If we become too strict about this, then character design will probably get stale. Some, or pretty much every character archetypes, are naturally annoying to some people, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't exit or evolve. There's some characters that are designed to be annoying or I can't imagine them not being annoying. I'm pretty sure what Waffleman means is characters such as, Sonic, or Steve, or maybe like, I guess Snake. But he even talks about it at the end of his post, where it's like, it's really just dependent on the counterbalance for it. Like, I think Sonic would be, like, fine to play against if it had, like, Pichu's level of weight, so that if you get, like, one good hit off, then he just dies instantly. At that point, then having a lot of speed in order to avoid people and to not engage honestly seems fine. But then when you get to, like, this Steve argument, it's like, well, he's already a can of worms I don't really want to do, only because it's going to take a lot of time, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows why he's broken. So, it's very weird. I'd be fine with being less sensitive for characters like this existing if they were also, I don't know, sensitive to me, rather than just being, like, very annoying with, like, little counterplay in order to do it. I feel like at that point, then, the remarks at them are warranted at that point. And the character design will probably get stale. I don't know if this is true, honestly. Only really because we don't really have a lot of really good information about that, considering the fact that platform fighters are still in their heyday, so it's not like a lot of people actually play a lot of platform fighters regardless. I think most people only play, like, versions of Smash, Rivals, maybe Multiversus, and then Brawlhalla. That's not really a lot. But then when you get into the nitty-gritty of characters that are very annoying in some games, maybe this can be applied to you. But in general, I don't think hating or being sensitive to these characters or just hating on them really makes character design less stale. In fact, it's actually only made them want to put more characters in it for people to hate for some reason, because it's like, it's not like you go to Smash Bros and you say, hey Sakurai, stop making so many good characters or so many annoying characters, and he just flips the nozzle and said, like, yeah, of course. Like, no, it's just ignored. And when it comes to, like, other platform fighters, the one that I know off rip is really Stardust Valkyries, and for a time, the characters were annoying, but it was annoying in the way where it's like, it wasn't very engaging in order to do, and a lot of, like, especially for the grappler of the game, there was a lot of, like, things that they can do to instant death you and, like, put you in unsavory situations, and that was really all changed. And even when they changed all that, their character designs are still intact. So, I don't really think that complaining about characters will make people or make devs just be less inclined in order to give us fantastic characters. I don't really agree. I do agree that it's a balancing act though, because it's like, I feel like if you are purposely making your characters annoying, then you really got to give them a weakness, because them having them be annoying and there's no other, like, incentive for other people to play against the character, you're just making it unfun for the other people that don't choose his character. That's ridiculous. These next few ones come from my boy MGG. He has a few of them, but they're very easy to explain, so it's fine. I want to see a more slower-paced, footsie-based platform fighter. This I agree 100%. I think a lot of platform fighters are really into the speed and the sort of quickness to a lot of things, but a slower pace is honestly what I would like more than ever. We already mentioned this in the podcast we have, so if you want a deeper explanation of it, go to there. Platform fighters shouldn't differentiate itself through traditional because they're faster. I don't think it's that. I think it's just the inclusion of stages and also the amount of space that something can give when you have a platform fighter. When it comes to vertical and like horizontal movement, that compared to every single other traditional fighter is not even close. Flash Party is actually this. It's slower pace. It's a good platform fighter. Maybe I don't like the monetization things that it does, but this is what I mean. I say have more slower based, footsie based platform fighters. I don't find Fox fun to play, and I'm getting a little sick of characters designed after him all the time. I don't hate Fox's design. I do hate it when he's across every single other platform fighter. Even when it comes to Rivals of Aether, Zetterburn is more Wolf than Fox, but the fact that even they're taking a lot from the design, it can be a little too much sometimes. Like when other traditional fighters have like a sort of repeated move or repeated things, it's usually for design purposes. People don't just use Dragon Punches in their game because it's cool, it's because it gives a visual indicator in order for defense to be happening. And because it's very consistent for how Dragon Punches usually go in traditional fighters, you see how it's used, you see how it's presented, and you can access the move and just know what you're doing. Usually when you add shine into someone, it's like, it's not really supposed to be used for a specific thing, it's just a cool thing that someone can do. If you're gonna go that way, then I would presume that you would go the alternative way and just make it into something completely different than Shine and Fox and Melee. For example, I think about Wolverine's sort of X Factor, not X Factor, but his X sort of move that he does in every single Marvel vs. Capcom game. And I would just do that for a Fox sort of character. Rather than Shine be like a combo tool or like maybe it helps get rid of certain things. It's just an ender, and you just use it in order to kill people, and it has a lot of end lag. Like, that's how you would actually make it very interesting if you're actually going to take the design aspects of Fox. He also says, I want to see RNG tripping brought back as a toggle for pure chaos games. If it's a toggle, then fine. If it's in there just cause, go fuck yourself. Items can be designed and utilized well in a competitive setting, but no one is brave enough to try. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. I think people just don't think about items in a sort of way where it can be in a competitive setting, and they always only think about it being random and being all over the place, and it's like, you gotta change your way of thinking when it comes to something like this. If you're gonna think about how to make items in a sort of competitive setting, then you just have to change what they are. You have to make them consistent, you have to make it be a part of the game rather than like something very just random. Also, of course, certain things you're not going to be allowed to do. If you threw Pokemon everywhere at certain people, of course it's going to feel like it's random and non-competitive. Just make them competitive. Actually, bucker down and just do it. I don't know. I think it can be done. It's just that a lot of people don't really have a lot of incentive, I guess. I'm putting 3 of these next ones together because they usually talk about the same thing. So let's get on that. This comes from my boy MC. Platform fighters need more casual modes. I don't care what this character can do if I can only ever do it in a traditional brawl. Beast MD says platform fighters need to take more advantage of side modes such as volleyball, smashball, soccer, kung fu. I guess that's what it means. To my knowledge, Brawlhalla's Kung Foot and Rivals Tetherball is the only games to do that. They help you learn your character's moves, including their timing and trajectories. And Gartor talks about that instead of being a sort of fighting game standard, that platform fighters can actually be a more single-player enhanced sort of game, which is interesting. So let's just go with it like this. I guess the problem that I have with these sorts of ideas is that, and again, this goes to like the podcast again with Neutral, but he's kind of shown me that even if platform fighters have single player modes, it doesn't mean that most of you people even enjoy it. Now, a story mode, sure, I can understand that, and you know, and alternative things for casual people in order to do. But more modes such as tetherball, such as like volleyball, like dominoes or something like that, it's like, I'm gonna be honest, not even like 2% of people that are casuals even enjoy those qualities. This is definitely more prevalent in Rivals of Aether, where it's like a lot more people would rather be going through workshop content rather than something that Rivals actually did, such as, you know, the Endless Abyss mode with like the custom move sorts of characters. Although fun, the problem is that you don't really get a lot of returns in it and not a lot of people actually care. So it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, you should incentivize people in order to have these things when, like, not even 2% of you actually play it. Again, I would love these things and a lot more things, and for players to, like, get their due fit for when it comes to, like, mini games or alternative things that they can do in the game, but it's like, if they don't put it in, it's honestly for a big reason, and that's like, because no one cares. Honestly, more people are into getting a good quality game first rather than, like, the alternative modes that you can do anyway. And that's honestly going to be one of the reasons why Rivals 2 is going to do very well. Now, do I want you to have those alternative modes? Sure, but if they're not putting their time and resources into it, you can see why. What's interesting is the last comment, because there's actually a lot of platform fighter games out there that are actually only gonna be single player content. I've talked about it a little bit in a few other videos, but I should really do a video about that, because there is a lot of them actually coming out. I'll probably have like a list going on by right now, but yeah. So on a final note to that, should modes be in the game? Sure, but there's a reason why they aren't. It's because most of you don't really care. Ivan Rodriguez has one. He says, don't know if this is a hot take, just couldn't think about anything. Clone characters are dope when they have a significant enough difference in gameplay. Now, I agree with this, I just don't agree with the things that he uses. So it's like Marth versus Lucina, I don't know about that one. Mario and Dr. Mario, now that's something I can agree with. And then there's Roy and Chrom. When it comes to Marth and Lucina, my problem is that, like, the little simple mechanic that it has doesn't even, like, do anything but makes one worse and the other not. Like, is Tipper cool? Kind of. Would you rather have that than, like, decent damage all around? I don't think so, at least for the most part. Not only that, but that change doesn't even do anything, because a lot of the things that you're going to see Lucina versus Marth do are kind of the same. It's just that Marth has to do a little more work in order to kill extra early, and Lucina just, like, doesn't care sometimes when hitting attacks because, like, there's no, like, weak hit usually. Dr. Mario does this with more justice. Mario is, like, very combo centric, has a lot of ways in order to get back on stage, has a lot of, like, decent interactions with the opponent. A very good all around character. Dr. Mario is like that, but Ganon. So it's like, you're pretty much mostly have to be bait heavy, and because your recovery isn't that good, you have to really do precise hits. You're not really going off on, like, the amount of combos that you can do, but more so, like, I don't want to say resets, but kind of like resets, and like really hitting people with, like, back air in order to hit them with one strong move so that you can kill them. It's like, it's completely not the same, and it's way more differences than Lucina and Marth, and they're better for it. Now, I wouldn't really use Roy and Chrom. I would say Roy and, like, and I would say, like, Roy and Marth, like, because Roy's hitbox, or it's strong hitbox, it's more to the hilt. He's kind of like a boxing glove, where it's like he actually has to get in and hit people rather than have the range that, like, Marth and Lucina has, which makes him a completely different character. Now you compare that to, say, like, Chrom, and it's like Chrom is like every single Fire Emblem character in one, but he also has a shitty up B. It's like, why? When it comes to things such as Marth versus Roy or Dr. Mario versus Mario, that makes sense for why a clone character can exist. And I would actually want more clone characters in, say, like, Rivals 2. I've already talked about clone characters, but in a video I did. But, like, I would want clone characters. Just make them actually worth it. Don't make them like Don't make them like Lucina and Marth. Make them more like Dr. Mario and Mario. Make them more like Roy versus Marth, per se. Clone characters are fine. Just do them well. Kalani Boy says, presentation is one of the most important things in a platform fighter right now. As long as you don't royal fuck up in other aspects, UI, graphics, art direction, all that. There are a lot of platform fighters that are better, but considering presentation-wise, they're not really. He cites Rushdown Revolt being a good example of this, and other alternatives such as Brawlhalla really accepting, like, having good presentation, which makes sense. Yeah, it's pretty apparent nowadays that presentation is kind of how you're going to do it. This is kind of why Rivals 2 is going to do so well. It's because his presentation is so good. And it really sucks because a lot of these other indie platform fighters are really good when you actually play them. It's just that they're not as grand as Smash Ultimate, so you just think they're ass, which I think is still horseshit, but whatever. Yes, presentation is a really good thing that you should do. However, it doesn't really mean that something is bad. In fact, I think we've kind of... It's not so much in like the Nintendo community or anything like that, but definitely when it was like Xbox versus PlayStation, we talked about like graphics and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people really think that if you don't have that Smash money or like that Smash tier when it comes to graphics, that you might as well not even try. And at that point, like I just think that's dumb. So it's like, yes, you should have good presentation, but if you think that presentation has to be only like the tip-top shape of everyone rather than like a certain style, I don't really know what to say. To put on that, I think Rush Down a Vote is okay when it comes to presentation. I just think it does a lot of other things very poorly that I can get into later. But yes, presentation is very important. You should really make it like a priority if you can. Canal Do Vegas? What the fuck? Okay, whatever. Indiepogo legitimately has the best crossover roster in any platform fighter. The amount of appeal, both mechanically and emotionally, is insane. I wouldn't know. I've never played that game. Not because I hate it, but because it looks boring as hell. So I can't really tell you. I can't tell you if this is incorrect or not. I'm sorry. Now this is an interesting one because I actually made them clarify so that I can have a bigger understanding of what's going on. So, Siren Reaver, I'm not sure if it is, but I think more platform fighter devs should pay attention to the Smash scene. Or shouldn't pay attention, my bad. I'm not saying to completely ignore them, just focusing on building a good product and branching out. Brawlhalla, despite my issues with it, has its own audience. Now, I told them to clarify what they mean by this, and this is what they gave me. That most plat fighters I see try to appeal to Smash in the sense of getting their players to stream it, focus on their events, where I feel ironically have better luck with the FGC. They basically gave their whole reason of why the FGC actually would be a better fit than anything like that, especially when it comes to like combo devils. So this is weird because it's like, I wish I had more examples of what he means by this sort of thing. The only thing that we got was Combo Devils doesn't do this. But I just want to ask everyone in the group, or just everyone, I guess. It's like, what platform fighter actually tries to get the Smash scene? I know this might seem so weird and like, oh, it's clearly obvious. Look, software, it's clearly obvious. And like, I don't think so. Most platform fighters that I do don't really like. I guess this is gonna have to be its own video in general, but like, a lot of the things that platform fighters want. It has really nothing to do with the fact that like they want the melee audience, I guess. Like when I think about something like Stardust Valkyries, right? I don't think this was something that someone did because they really liked melee that much. That could be part of it, but like wanting the melee audience, I don't know. And this goes out for most other platform fighters. I hear this argument a lot where it's like the people are trying too hard in order to get the Smash audience, but like I can never get a source of what specific game actually really tries to do this. So it's like, I just think it's incorrect. Like I really think the only one in mind is like maybe Icons and then like maybe Nasby one. And even then, I would argue that, and this might go into the other video that I will make about like Smash clones, but like I think way too many people think of like Smash Melee as a fast game, so it's like everything that is fast is now Melee. Like just because you're fast doesn't mean that you should only say that it's about like taking things from Melee. Like sure, it was a thing. That doesn't really mean that it's trying to be melee. We don't say this about Street Fighter or any sort of other games like that. You see so many things in like other sort of fighting games, like blocking, push block, freaking parrying, like things like that came from a specific fighting game, but we don't really say that it's a clone of like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear. So why do we do this with things such as like Melee and other comparisons? They're just fast games. I don't think it means that they want to be with the Melee audience. If anything, maybe it's a hot take on my part, but I think it's the exact opposite. I think too many Smash people try to go into platform fighters and try to just compare it to Smash off rip. I think it's kind of the reason why Rivals 2 is going to do so well. It's like, it's a very traditional sort of platform fighter for the fact that it has shield and ledges so that people from like regular genres can actually like get into it more. And that's kind of the point. It's like, if you step out of this mold, then you're hated forever. But if you stay in the mold, then you're only getting called a Smash clone. You just can't win. Basically, I think this. I don't think that most platform fighters actually try to go into the Melee crowd or the Smash crowd. I actually think it happens in reverse, where like the Smash and Melee crowd try to make things to look like their game, and it's not going to work out. And because of that, and because Smash has been here for so long, Smash, clone, and every single other sort of argument come into the mix to make other games look worse than what they probably are. Maybe I'm just going to talk to more people or get my thoughts in order, but I don't know. I don't think a lot of platform fighters try to appeal to Smash at all. This is by Hard Drive 1028. The changes in speed and multiverses make the game way more fun. Yes, actually. I fucking hated the beta for how fast it was, because if you actually looked at tournaments beforehand, it looks fucking off. People are zipping off and like doing a lot of shit, and not only did it have the problems with the hitboxes being off, but also the attacks being off. So include all that and you have a floaty platform fighter that is fast, but also when you get hit, it sometimes comes out of nowhere. Maybe all they needed in their change was to like fix up the hitboxes and hurtboxes, but like even then, I didn't really know what was going on half the time when I was looking at a Multiversus tournament. It was just so bizarrely fast that it's kind of unneeded. Because of the changes now, Multiversus is more like bait heavy. It doesn't mean that it's more enjoyable to me, at least. It doesn't really mean that everything else isn't bad, like the monetization. I hate the fact that like literally a single hit from up top, like you just instantly die. Like that can be very annoying sometimes, but the change of speed to me, I think is good. We got Mario Bros 4 with techniques that involve fast finger gymnastics like the Palutena Warp, platform lip tech, short hopping like Peach Float, and not float combo, and Squidward's short hopping attack things is stupid and needs to go away. I think it has more so to do that it's kind of annoying, especially when the margin of error is to die. A lot of platform fighters have made these sorts of things like a lot easier to do with like specific characters, but you know, when it comes to even Squidward, I guess it can make sense why that's still here. I don't really think they need to go away per se. Maybe if they made it easier for people in order to do it, like in order to do it real consistently, I guess. Because, you know, there's one thing about it being difficult, and then there's another where it's just like very, very unfun to do, I guess. I guess the argument can also go in the way of like technical characters should be able to exist, like Sheik, I guess. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like they don't really need to go away. I think you could just like make it so that they're easier to do if it's like that much of a problem, especially with your hands, because I know a lot of platform fighters can be hard on the hands if you're not really used to it. So I don't know. I'm going to talk about the second part later because it actually goes with a certain person, so we'll talk about that one later. We got Gurren Prime with more plat fighters need super moves, just because the two most famous examples of Final Smashes and I don't know what the hell that is. Oh, PlayStation All-Stars. My bad. Were poorly balanced. Doesn't mean they couldn't work. So many traditional fighters figure them out, so I don't see why platform fighters seem so scared of them. So this is actually very interesting because I've already talked about this sort of thing in my own video. It's a little too slow in order for me to really recommend nowadays, so I'll just give a rundown of what I said. In order for you to put supers in your game, I would really like every single person that tries to do it to try to remember 4 things: properties, volume, duration, and when it's activatable. Properties are the things that revolve around the characters, so it's like percentage, knockback things, you know, certain states that happen, such as being like grounded or like tripping and things like that. Volume is just how much the move kind of takes up space, and you have to pair it with properties. Duration is just how long the move goes, and when it's activatable, just meaning that how are your players able to do this sort of thing or activate it. if you take that all in account, you could see how platform fighters could actually incorporate supers. It's just that not a lot of them have done it very well. Smash Bros hasn't really done it that well. I mean, even in Ultimate, like, a few of the a lot of the transformations actually were just like 30% hit combos because they didn't want to balance everything, so there's that. When it came to PlayStation All-Stars, the reason why that didn't work was because you had to kill with the supers. It would be so much better if the supers were just something on top, rather than something that was just the only way to kill people. However, with a lot of things like NASB 2 and how they do supers, they do it pretty okay. I say it's okay because it's not really interesting, like hitting a person and then a cutscene happens for the most part. I would prefer if supers were more like Third Strike, where it's like the character just does an assortment of moves that look very cool rather than a whole cutscene, because I don't know, it's just cooler to me that way. I don't see why platform fighters seem so scared of them. They seem scared of them because no one has done it well and no one really knows how to balance them. If you just like hunker down and do it, I feel like you can. But down H-buns? Yeah, that's what it is. They talk about, I don't think melee should be the sole foundation of future platform fighters and should expand on their influences. I love wave dashing and zooming around the stage like a maniac, but I feel like a lot of games takes a lot more melee PM than what I necessarily, and should at least try to be more experimental. As long as the game in of itself is very solid to move and fight in, some will flop, I understand, but sometimes you gotta be hella out of the box and make something truly innovative. So, okay, so there's two parts to this. See, this is what I said about like an earlier comment, but like, I don't think most platform fighters actually take around melee. Like, you could say that it's like, oh, wave dashing and zooming around is a melee thing, but like, it's been around so long that it's not a melee thing. It's just a platform fighter trait, the same as how blocking is in like Street Fighter and everyone takes from that. Canceling moves was a Street Fighter thing, and that's not really the case when it comes to other people being called clones. So maybe people need to like, maybe we need to be in a discussion about this, but I really hate that every single time something has like wave dashing, it has to be a melee thing when that's just a platform fighter thing at this point. So it's like, yeah. Innovative. So like, the problem also comes from the fact that no one can really tell me what innovation is in the platform fighter scene. Like, we say get out of the box, but like nobody can really tell me what that means. I don't know whether that means you do an entire other different thing like a 3D platform fighter, and I don't know whether that means taking from like fighting games, and I just don't know what that means. Being innovative can be like a lot of things, and since nobody can really like direct me to where they're talking about, I feel as though you should really say what you mean first before making blanket statements, because I just don't know what innovation means, and it's getting me to the point where I just think that trying to be innovative doesn't really do anything into your space. So like, again, I hate that I keep using Rivals 2, but it's like Rivals 2, when it comes to innovation, it's not too much. I mean, the different sort of specials on Ledge and what you can do and grab are pretty cool and are pretty different when it comes to the platform fighter scene. But everything else is pretty reasonable, you know. Like, shields are better than what they are in Smash because you don't really get hit randomly. Like, it doesn't become smaller, it just like breaks, so that's a different thing. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward, and it's like a lot of the reason why anyone wants to play this is because it looks like it's a good game rather than anything else. Basically, I don't like the idea that we keep saying that a lot of future platform fighters' sole foundation is only melee, considering the fact that a lot of things from melee that make it what it is aren't in other platform fighters to begin with, and really the only basic thing that we have is like maybe wave dashing and maybe that things look fast, and that's really it. If you're gonna say that that's only a melee thing, I disagree. I think that's just like a platform fighter thing at the end of the day. Second of all, I don't really know what innovation or try to be more experimental is, because so many people have different arguments for what that could be. So I can't really support it 100%, especially if you don't go into it more so. Maybe that's also on me. I probably should have asked that guy, but you know, we're here now. Oh god, this is a big one. We'll save this for the end as well. This is from Zero True Moo. I think that most developers are too narrow-minded when it comes to playing certain archetypes of characters. Most of characters in those archetypes are unique, which is something I can applaud them for. I hardly see any character archetypes that revolve around grabbing, parries, or status effects. But hey, maybe I don't know much about platform fighter balance to see reasons why devs don't add characters like that to their games. So, to answer Trumu, there's a lot of platform fighters that have the things that you're looking for in this sort of regard. Not only that, but there's also a lot of platform fighters that are actually revolving around these things in the future. So, like, I believe I've seen him once before. I think he already knows about Rivals of Aether, so maybe he's already tried that, and maybe he thinks that's the only one. But if you want to talk about different sort of states and, like, going around with grabs as a sort of mechanic, you should really look into Stardust Valkyries. A lot of the gimmicks in that game are very interesting, and if you wanted something to be dedicated to, like, grabbing, you would get that. And if you wanted, like, a status effect, you could go with things like Minkata. That's the Spider Woman. That's if you wanted to, though. Now, when it comes to the future, of course, Rivals 2 is there. But if you're waiting on something, I would wait for Combo Devils, because they have a character called Achilles, and he's actually a very bait-focused character that has like a super parry in his mind. So if you wanted that, you can go with that. There's a few other characters that have not really been released yet or haven't been talked about yet that probably have a lot what you're talking about. So yeah, I think the platform fighters do this. It's just that a lot of them don't really get the coverage that they really should. So it looks as though that platform fighters don't really do much, especially if like Brawlhalla and Smash Bros are your only things. Even Multiversus has done this like semi-decently well, but I can see why people don't really count that. But I understand. Beast MD, oh man, I remember this one. This is gonna get the Rivals people mad. Although gimmicks are cool, the obsession of making every Rivals character have some crazy unique aspect to them is kind of annoying. Minor gimmicks like Kirby, Marth, Rano, and Fleet are cool. Forsburn and his Nomas are so awesome. He could have been my main if it wasn't for the annoying smoke. He could have been plenty unique with just his clone, or maybe just his forward tilt. Maybe simple is best. It's how we got amazing characters such as Captain Falcon, Link, Sheik, Ike, and Pit, and etc. I can understand Rano and Fleet being cool. I can even understand to a certain point why Martha's cool. Kirby's gimmick is just there. Like, nobody actually really uses it except like maybe memeing on someone. Like, every single Kirby main I've ever seen like never uses that gimmick like with any sort of intensity at all, and usually only uses tilts, so I don't know. Forsburn is a pretty cool character. I kind of play in the same way. I kind of only use his tilts and stuff like that and only really use it. So, but that's more on like, I'm very simple as someone, so I don't really enjoy it too much. But for the people that do enjoy it, go ahead. Maybe this can be solved by like a Forsburn sort of clone character in the game, where it's like they don't really use the smoke all too much, and instead it's just like pure power and like maybe a single bait rather than anything else. But who knows? I agree, simple is kind of best a lot of the times. A very underrated game that kind of proves that is definitely Flash Party. It doesn't really have like a lot of like big things in the platform fighter space, but it does its jobs very well, and the characters are pretty okay, even if they are simple. So yeah, I can understand where this is coming from, but instead of wording it as like an obsession, like I would just say gimmicks are very cool. I just wish that maybe we like toned it down a little bit if it was to like, and maybe how we can tone it down is again like clone characters. Like I would really like clone characters in Rivals 2 if we were to get it, and that would actually be pretty cool if the Smash scene like comes by in order to play those clone characters, because they're so simple and they can leave like the more in-depth characters to like real Rivals fans. So maybe. I think it's a little harsh what he said, but there is some truth to it. I'll give people that. King Valar. Oh wow, I've seen him in a lot of videos, and also a lot of community tabs. I think people who like these games or want to make these games should play KOF and stew on the ideas present there, because that's where the core of Smash and basically every platform fighter ever made to find its roots. Rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, I think people should look into the roots of it all and learn from that. Just for some clarification, here's some comments. Like Mario Bros says, yeah, not just KOF, just more fighting games in general, even the bad ones. You know what ideas you can pluck. And he says that's true, but I say KOF in particular because Sakurai names KOF as its chief influence, and you can see how that influence and how the games gets played, multiple jumps, movement options, rolls, etc. So just like the last one, there's definitely a hint of truth when he talks about this sorts of thing. I kind of agree more with Mario Bro in order to take from a lot of different fighting games than just KOF. But I guess the problem is just the genre in general and the differences between like fighting games in general. See, platform fighters, a lot of people talk about platform fighters that pretty much the biggest difference are two things: the stages and also the speed of them. One of these is correct, and that's the first one. The second isn't speed. The second is space. And I guess the third small one is like differences in like movement, like, you know, horizontal and vertical sort of axis. You know, if you walk versus run in like a fighting game, like a traditional fighter, you run, but it's not like you can dash back. And platform fighters, like, that's different. So that would be a minor thing. But the reason why I talk about it is because even the slowest platform fighters, most of their moves actually take up a lot of space that you kind of have to either avoid or deal with. That is very different compared to, like, say, traditional fighters, where a lot of normals, even though that sometimes they could be egregious, like, a lot of them can be blocked with and dealt with, and like the neutral just makes it a lot more different when things like that are really introduced. So it's like, if you look at KOF and what it does, I don't know if really you can get a lot from it. Again, Sakurai took the multiple jump, the movement options, the rolls. That's great. But what else can you really take from KOF in order to make a platform fighter like have more defining things? Especially when you can also take those things from other traditional fighters. Maybe we just need to talk about it a lot more, but it doesn't really mean that KOF doesn't have anything for platform fighters, especially since, you know, it's kind of the reason why Sakurai even got the idea in the first place. But the problem is just like the dynamic differences between platform fighters and between traditional fighters, where it's like, you really gotta think about what you're taking from each. And I don't know if KOF has truly a lot more things in order to give to the platform fighter scene. I can always be wrong, but I would rather, I want more discussion about this. This is actually a little interesting. Fucking donut from frame makers. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Slopes are cool. I asked them for like a clarification, and they talk about, they provide cool interaction like shot put rolling down them, Mega Man slide special sticking to the slope, and at least the people I play with ult avoid them like the plague, but they spice up gameplay a bit. Okay, that is cool, but then you got Lilat. The reason why I hate Lilat is because the slopes make it so that it really like gets rid of everyone's specials sometimes. Like, if you're a wolf and you keep shooting from one angle to get a little bit of space, sometimes the slopes will just tank it and it won't travel through like it is supposed to. So now all you got is hands. So it's like, slopes could be really cool, and I know they could be pretty cool because I know Combo Devils is doing slopes in a sort of good way. Even they use even like flat walls so that you get caught on things. It's pretty cool. But I think my problem with slopes is when it impedes on my movement so much. And yes, sometimes it can really do a lot of good things like the Mega Man side special, but I just hate the fact that it really impedes on me. So like, that's why I hate them. Davidi? I don't know. Davidi 9000 says, wave dashing isn't needed. We need more characters with command inputs. I've already talked about wave dashing in like another video. If you want to do it, cool. And if you don't, just try to do something different. Now, to impede upon that, sometimes people don't really know what they want if wave dashing were gone. Like, a lot of people say, like, you should innovate by getting rid of wave dashing and adding in something else. And it's like, I would really hope that these people just hunker down and actually think about something alternative to wave dashing. Because, like, just saying to innovate and not bringing anything to the table doesn't really do anything. So, like, if you're gonna say innovate, just help them out and like maybe do something, or maybe have some ideas in the foreground. Now, with characters having more command inputs. The reason why I disagree is, like, a lot of people from, like, other traditional fighters would be like, well, that's because command inputs are too hard for you babies. First of all, don't talk to us about being babies. I've seen your tweets when it comes to Dragon Ball FighterZ. Do not play with me. Second, I play Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. You know, you kind of need to do command inputs, and I could do it semi-decently well. So it's like, the actual command inputs aren't the problem. The reason why I don't like command inputs in platform fighters is because it can get in the way of certain things that you want to do. So it's like, it's like some traditional fighters have certain moves and like things like Shoryuken or like flick back and forth and then hit him with a special and things like that. And like that's fine for them because they don't really have the sort of like movement option of like full dash and then full dash back. But when you have this sort of movement in a platform fighter, you really need a lot of like simple movements in order to really determine how to fight someone. And once you complicate it by having like those type of moves in the game, some sort of inputs that you want kind of get fudged out. This is why I don't really like it, is because a lot of things that you really want to do kind of really just get impeded. That's really my biggest reason. Dash attacks are lame. See, this is why we should keep doing what we have been doing and like clarifying first. I didn't ask for clarification, so there's just this on the screen, and now I have nothing to do but just look at it, because I don't have anything. I don't know why dash attacks are lame. I don't know what it's doing. I don't fucking know. Oh god, another big one. We're saving this at the end. We're saving this at the end. This is an interesting one. It comes from Beast MD again. Rushdown Revolt should have revoked the rush mechanic once they realized the community wasn't latching onto it. At the end of the day, it had nothing to do with icons, pricing, or community leaders. It's just people saw Bayonetta looking combos and said, nah, there's no other reason why a fully realized game with a training mode, awesome character design, and great netcode should be flopping. Now, usually I would have a lot to say about it, but I'm going to actually let the comments section dictate this sort of thing. Sparklead talks about it was reworked on launch. If you do the same move consecutively, the hit stun gets cut in half. There's a stalling queue of 5, and if a move is in the queue twice, the hit stun will be cut. Combos before launch were very much Bayo, baby, combos, but it's not like that anymore. Ironically, a lot of people left because they aren't baby combos anymore, so that's pretty funny. So yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about it later, but it seems as though Rushdown Revolt, especially with their recent tweet, is going to be doing some updates and like, well, I don't really want to spoil it, but once I make the video, it's really going to be apparent that I have a lot of hope for Rushdown Revolt, even though it looks like that for a long time, it was going not so well. So we'll talk about that later. Before that, let's just do his final statement, which is, yeah, a bunch of changes have happened, especially since post-launch. Most people don't even know the game is fully free again yet, which is true. No more online pass, that's true. The dev team is fully volunteer-based now, that's true. Expect a decent-sized patch in the coming days. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. But yes, there's a lot of information that Rushdown Revolt actually has that not a lot of people know about, but I'll be talking about it soon, so there's that. Okay, now we gotta get to the big ones, and I'm sorry if it looks like I'm picking on you. It's just like, this is a lot of information, and this is just a lot of information to talk about, and also they're extensive topics, so it's just, I have to save this for the end, you know? I am not going to read everything. I'm just going to show you what the clip reads. You can read it on your own time, and then I will react accordingly, just so that this video doesn't become so long. It's already like 43 minutes, Jesus Christ. I will also take a minute in order to give the replies to it, because I do think that the replies are kind of needed in order to have this topic. So I'm just going to put it here. You can read them for your own thing, and then we'll react to it afterward. So if you read all of those, I kind of agree with King on this one. For different reasons of why I would say so, but a lot of the reasons that it brings up are pretty true. A lot of platform fighters and a lot of traditional fighters have had histories where they've been off and they've been on. Even though there's a lot of times where the Japanese audience is like up right now, you could also just have the argument of just like a lot of traditional fighting games when it comes to the USA either don't do it or just haven't really tried. I like the idea that it's been a constant ongoing cultural exchange rather than just like Japan really dominating, because if you just change the sort of setting and the sort of things that people are dealing with, you can see how this can really change how you perceive that Japanese games versus Western games is better. Because like if you go to shooting games, it's like, I don't know, I think the US got you on that one. Maybe even China, to be honest with you. But when you compare it to something like fighting games, which is also very strange, because fighting games are probably the one genre that aren't as big as everyone else, or doesn't get as many people, so that's also an argument. But yeah. Also, not to be mean, but this one really gets me. On average, their roster picks are cringe, usually devolving into furries, Western Indian OCs, and meme picks. Bro, let's... There could be so many things that you can bring up from Japanese things that kind of fit the bill, especially the furry line. It is really weird to say that. And although I do agree with him with some points, such as like him mentioning the problem with Platform Fighters video, that's one of them, I don't think it's character design. And I will agree that it's like when it comes to character design of Western versus Platform Fighters, like I do like a lot of what Japanese sort of people do. But the issue is that a lot of the games that Platform Fighters are doing, it's not really so much the characters, and it's more so that the game just isn't as engaging as like other Platform Fighters, whether it comes to emotion or whether it comes to just having a good looking product, you know? This is why I don't really like looking at things from a Western versus Japanese sort of setting, because what always comes out on the end will always be, is your game good? And I don't really think that, and although I do really like character design, I like it, I like what it does, more than likely a person is going to play your game even if it looks like not the best, if it's just a good game. If it's just a good game, you know what I mean? I don't really know if like more Japanese developers ever to do like Platform Fighters that they would do very well compared to like the Western audiences, but I don't think it's just because of like an aesthetic difference. I think it's just also the fact that, let's be honest here, a lot of Platform Fighters within the recent years haven't been up to quality when it comes to just, whether it comes to content or presentation or emotional appeal. So it's just like, again, I don't think this is a Japanese versus Western influence. I think this is just, is your game good? And I know maybe I'm not treating this like the topic that it really should be, and maybe it should be its own video, but I feel like at the end of the day, although nowadays you can see that the Japanese influence and why people of that nature could be doing very well in this space, you also got to realize a lot of the faults that were happening. Even King brings it up, where it's like fighting games look like they were dying for a certain time until like they picked themselves back up together. So that honestly goes to my point, where it's like I think a lot of fighting games just needed to be good rather than just mediocre, and I think that's just what the Platform Fighter scene needs to do. So again, maybe this is a new topic that needs to be brought up beforehand, but I don't think it has anything to do with not being enough like characters or meme pics, furry design, Western OCs or whatever. I think it's just a lot of Platform Fighters don't have the emotional appeal and the aesthetic and the good graphics that honestly they should have in the very beginning. So that's why not a lot of people play them. So yeah, I think it's just all together. People just need to make good games rather than just like make decent ones, you know what I mean? But maybe I'm wrong. Here's another one made by the guy. I'm not going to say everything, I'm just going to react to it. I don't think there was a lot of replies to it, so I'll just react to it here. I'll put it up, you guys listen to it, we'll react to it. Do the Smash scene likes to make fun of anime characters? Yes. And too many things? Yeah. There's a reason why. I think a lot of it is pretty overbloated, but there is a genuine reason why. Like, most of the time when I hear things talking about, like, anime sword fighters, it's not even, like, things like Cloud or Sephiroth and things like that, or it's just really, like, Fire Emblem, if I want to be completely honest with you. And I think the reason why is because, like, not only do the Fire Emblem first of all, the Fire Emblem characters take way too much from each other way too often. a lot of the moves are usually the very same, and like the differences in what they aren't as big as what they could be. And if they are different, say like Corrin or the other guy, I forgot his name, or Byleth, they're usually just like, at least to me, just boring to play. Like Marth, Ike, maybe Lucina, and then like Roy. Like I would consider those characters actually very fun, very well designed. Even Roy, because Roy makes the difference of like you only have to space people to now you basically have a boxing glove for a hilt, and now you have to run up and hit people in the face. That's a different design aspect that makes the character very interesting. But everyone else is just like, I don't want to play you because you're either boring as hell, or a lot of your design aspects are just completely copied from other things. So it's like, this is what I mean, because it's like, we keep seeing anime characters when it's mostly like a Fire Emblem thing. I don't see anyone really talking about Cloud, talking about Sephiroth, talking about Meta Knight, or even Shulk for that matter. And you would think a lot of people yell about Shulk, but I haven't seen it. And I think that's just because Fire Emblem characters don't do as many different things as Meta Knight, as Shulk, as a lot of different other characters. The second reason will also be for the fact that, maybe this is a hot take for me, but it's pretty apparent now, but a lot of the anime aesthetic from Fire Emblem has kind of been like junked up to the max. This isn't really noticeable when you get to like GBAs and like other things where it's like a little bit grungy, you know, like the art style is definitely a lot different compared to now. Especially when I look at a lot of like recent games, the anime aesthetic is just way too fucking high, where it doesn't really look like it has its own style, and it looks like it's copying from a lot of people. Like, again, the toothpaste hair from the main character and the big bulgy eyes already makes this really apparent that maybe something is going on, where maybe Fire Emblem is getting less Western influence anime and more just anime. I can't speak for everyone when it comes to this regard, but that's what I mean when I talk about like anime characters or like anime sword fighters. I don't complain about Meta Knight, I don't complain about Sephiroth, I don't complain about most of the cast. I really only complain about the Fire Emblem characters. With that, let's go on with the other ones. Anime sword fighters are iconic. I mean, they're only iconic because they were here first, and even then, like, most of the other casts are definitely more iconic than them. Most of the reasons why that they were even like so cool is because you didn't know where they came from. When you came to nowadays, I really don't know anyone that would be like Marth compared to any of the other original 8 characters. So I don't know. See, the third point here is exactly what I'm talking about. The aesthetic to anime is fine. Like Cloud, Sephiroth, even Bayonetta, like Pokemon, like it's very fine, but they have their own sort of like very deep like aesthetic to them that isn't just a part of the anime scene. Like it would be very weird if I just said, this just looks like a cartoon, and it's like you can only tell that it's like rubber hose animation. You don't see like any of the modern sort of things, maybe like the animated Justice League, for example, when it comes to like USA animation and things like that. Like clearly there's a difference here compared to like these other cool looking anime, compared to like something like Fire Emblem. Again, I don't think people have a problem with anime in like in Smash Brothers. I think it's just when the Fire Emblem characters are not only boring, but their aesthetics are going to more like regular. Like you don't look at Bayonetta and don't go, that is cool. But you will go to Marth nowadays or Lucina nowadays or other Fire Emblem characters, maybe except Ike, and you'll just be like, wow, this is like really boring. Is anime in the DNA of this game? Sure. Doesn't mean that some of them don't look booty, though. Smash Community will never admit it, but so-called anime fighters love to diss are the best archetype in the Smash series. I don't know what best archetype means, so I can't really tell you about that one. Most people hate zoners and touch of death characters. Zoners I can understand, especially because like they don't let you interact in certain scenarios, like Steve, so like that makes sense. Touch of death characters, I don't know what that means, because like I know things that can touch a death, but when it comes to like touch of death characters, it can be like a wide variety. Like you could really say that Ganondorf is like a touch of death characters, and he's like always hype whenever he comes in. So I don't know what that means. Puff gave floaties a bad name. I don't know. This is a very weird topic, because it's like, did Puff give floaties a bad name? I don't know. Like, a lot of the reason why, how do I put this? We have really seen a resurgence when it comes to talking about different things in platform fighters. So it's like old arguments from beforehand don't really apply now. Like, a lot of the melee scene beforehand would probably say that like Puff is just not bad, but just like horrible to face against even now, and like, you know, you could just twirl in a bunch of times. But a lot of people have also had an appreciation for Puff when it comes to like the baiting aspect, or the fact that, you know, for the matchups that she has to deal with, she just dies. So doing that sort of things makes sense. So it's like, I don't know. Competitive players don't respect heavies because they're frequently unviable. Again, this seems like you're only talking about Smash. This doesn't really seem like you're talking about like other platform fighters. So I don't know. Are spaces carried by their melee legacy? Yeah. Are they overhyped? I don't know. I don't really have an opinion for this either way. Russian and grapplers are cool and all, but they're not platform fighter exclusive. Yeah, but I don't think anime sword fighters are exclusive either. Like, the only thing about it is the aesthetic. But when you get rid of the sword, and if you were to just replace that with a regular hitbox, you would just say this about like other fighting games in general. First of all, we do have anime sword fighters or sword characters in fighting games anyway. They're just called fencers, and there's like a lot of them. My favorite character in Grand Blue Fantasy Versus is like a fencer. So it's like, I don't even think this is really like a unique thing in the platform fighter scene. Also, if you wanted to go there, you could just say any gorilla kind of just fits the bill of what like an anime sword character would be. It's just that they're more grounded. They reward fundamentals and you look cool while doing it. Look cool while doing it. Maybe melee, maybe like melee Marth. I don't know about recently though. And what's the best part? They have a variety of playstyles ranging from rushdown oriented or the other ones. Yeah, but like Lucina and Chrom shouldn't be here. Lucina is just a better Marth. I don't understand this. And Chrom is just like a mismatch as everyone. It's just that his up B is bad. If you want to talk about the other Fire Emblem characters, I've already brought it up before, but yeah. Out of all the Smash archetypes throughout the games, the Swordy archetype is the most universal appeal among casual and competitive fighters. I don't know about that. Again, it's not really me like yelling at him. It's just like a lot of the arguments that are really placed on here, I really feel like they should just be like they don't really need to exist in the way where it's like, I don't think a lot of people talk about like hating anime characters and platform fighters. They just hate, like, I just hate how Fire Emblem does it. Like, there's like 3, maybe 4 characters in Fire Emblem that are actually cool. The rest are either mixed or they're just, I just don't like them. And their aesthetics when it comes to their face look like traditional anime rather than the design of like older Fire Emblem. So you mix in all that, and I don't know. I just can't agree with this. And maybe I need to just hear the arguments more, but like, I just can't really agree with this. I'm gonna be honest. Here's one from an anonymous source. Though ledge hogging and ledge trumping are fine both ways to handle the ledge, ledge trumping is clearly the more interactive way to handle ledges of the two. Trumping objectively has more player-to-player interactors in the system. Forcing aggression to seal early stocks makes a disadvantage feel like they still have a chance, and is very friendly for casuals to understand. The fact that other fighters has not implemented trumping over hogging into their ledge play is a net loss of the to the progression of ledge mechanics play as a whole. Now, at first this might sound like they're spitting. I have an alternative thinking process to this. I feel like ledge hogging wouldn't be that bad if you actually had a lot of things you can do in order to get back on stage. It's actually been only recently that platform fighters have been making not only stage design, but the ways to get back on stage quite better. When you look at things such as Rivals of Aether, things like Combo Devils, even things like Multiversus. A lot of them don't really have a ledge per se, but they do have a lot of ways that you can get back on stage. Not always safe, but relatively safe. Like, there's still risk to it, but it's still fun. Even though ledge trumping is like a thing you can do in Smash Ultimate and it has a lot of avenues, I think the big problem with me is still the two-framing. Sometimes you could just throw out one move, hit someone, and then they just don't come back. Unlike Combo Devils, there's actually a resource that you can, especially when you climb the wall, or there's a lot of movement options that you can use to actually get over the stage rather than always hit the ledge every single time. I forgot if Rivals 2 is doing ledge hogging, but if there's a lot of ways for you to actually get on stage, then ledge hogging seems less like a problem and seems more so something that you do so that you check your opponent. If you just put ledge hogging in any sort of game without these sorts of things, of course it's going to be bad. But you have to just weigh the options of what you're able to give the people. That's why I don't really think it's like a net loss, the fact that people are doing ledge hogging versus trumping, because I don't really think that's the issue. Especially since ledge trumping still doesn't solve all the issues concerning the ledge. It's also boring, so there's that. This is another one. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a Smash killer. In most aspects, except IP, Smash design can be improved. Nintendo is constantly leaving money on the table, and most other platform fighters aren't picking much of it up. I guess the problem is just the connotations with Smash Killer. I don't even know where this came. I don't really know where this word came from, if I'm gonna be honest with you. If you mean it in the way where it's just like you want to have some competition to Smash, then fine. But when I hear Smash Killer, at least to me, I think of replacing Smash. So that's why. If you want to be the next sort of competition to Smash Brothers, that's fine. I think the issue that every single other casual has is that they or other people use it in a way in order to replace Smash only, rather than not be in its shadow anymore. So it's like, if you want to be the next Smash Bros, fine. But if you want to replace Smash Bros, that's where everyone gets in a tizzy. Before platform fighters had a certain formula, there was a lot of experimental games, Digimon Battle Arena, Battle Stadium, PS All-Stars, that were all crappy but had nuggets of gold when it comes to design and fun. Nowadays, platform fighters have a formula, but we're getting less nuggets. Maybe it's time for a new separate recipe. Now, I asked them to clarify, so here's what they had to say for the clarification. They more so mean percent-based health, bubble shields, ledge mechanics, and moveset types, which is tilt, smash attacks, two-button fighter, etc., etc. Also, to just get more clarification, I asked if Combo Devils or Rushdown Revolt are changing the formula, or maybe they're too strict, and here's what they said. They said for Combo Devils, it's yes, and for Rushdown Revolt, it's a soft yes. So now I understand what's going on. See, when they mentioned the other games, maybe I've already talked about it, I don't really remember, but it's really when it comes to, I don't like innovation for the sake of innovation. I don't want people to do a 3D platform fighter because they think something is getting too stale. I want you to have innovation because there's a clear reason why it should be here. It kind of goes back to the situations I've had before when talking about Smash clones to people and when they talk about innovation, because some of them talk about innovation like take it from other platform fighters. Others say that you have to change your entire aspect of a platform fighter just to have innovation. For example, if you're saying that the only way for this genre to like have some improvements is to basically just become Power Stone, I feel like you've lost the plot when it comes to this. There are certain types of innovation that I would like in the platform fighter series, but just having it for the sake of it is not good at all. This is why I made sure to get some inclination of the comment beforehand. So it's like, this I can really agree with, where it's like, I think a lot of platform fighters can be sort of regular and could use a lot more push when it comes to these designs. Combo Devils really does this very well, by the way. So, yes. Maybe the formula has gotten a little stale in that regard, but when it gets to the point where someone says, in order to have true innovation, we just have to be Power Stone, I think that's when we've lost the plot. Whoa, my gosh, Jesus, that was a lot of hot takes and a lot of emotions being thrown over there. That was crazy. Although, even though it was a lot, I would definitely do this again. I just like the fact that these ideas of argumentation are less about like just memeing on someone and more so like getting into like the actual reasoning and argumentation of how these can be applied and how to actually make better platform fighters in the future, or maybe even fighting games in the future. I do think that maybe we've kind of, sure, nowadays when hot takes are made, you know, we focus way too much on like it always being like a negative connotation, and I think honestly maybe it should just be just different ideas rather than just hot takes because of like the connotation to it when we're just trying to talk about ideas. But, you know, I guess that's how the cookie crumbles, you know. I definitely think that maybe this can spark a lot of things in the comment section, not even like necessarily like rabid attacking, and more so just like more understanding of how people view things, because when it comes to different sort of values that people have when it comes to games, at least talking about it can bring up a lot of good futures from then on. So, you know what, I think that's pretty cool. We've gone through a lot of them, and maybe I can do more in the future, but this was a lot. I'll talk to you guys later, and I guess in the comment section.